Guys, this is Astranox. This is gonna be a guide, a review of Maid Chloe. So I've been thinking about different setups that different comps you can use for her and her skill set and like how she can be countered and all that. So I'll go over multiple things. Like her skill multipliers, her skill, of course. I'll talk about skill up priority, gear, what kind of artifacts, what kind of sets, what main stats you should go for, best setups that you can have for her, where does she shine in the game. So with skill 1 you can actually stun, 35% chance. I mean, she's gonna need some effectiveness, but I'll talk about stat priority, and effectiveness is definitely on the lower side in terms of priority. But yeah, 35% chance to stun. The multiplier on that is 186%. And skill 2, the passive, every time she goes, she heals herself and the lowest HP ally. This heals for 8% of her max HP. When you Molagora, this is 50% increase, so 12% of her max HP. That's not bad if you think about it, like 12% for herself plus an ally, especially if the ally is more of a squishy hero, it's gonna heal a big chunk of their HP. If you have her in PvE like with some tank that has more like defense than HP, well, she's gonna be able to make that tank with Aureus survive quite well by herself, like especially with Celestine. So there is that, for maybe not for content now, but maybe for future content. Now skill 3, that is where it's at now. This thing though, like increase attack by for 3 turns plus give the revive buff for 3 turns, 2 different buffs, 5-turn cooldown, or if they're dead, revives them with 20% HP. She should be paired in PvP with big threats. What I mean by that, like maybe not a whole team, but like you pair her with like, it could be like Bloodblade Karen, could be like a Crow, could be an Arbiter Vildred, a Martial Artist Ken, a Seaside Bellona. Like I was thinking even like Bruisers with her would be a solid setup. The thing is, like when you do revive an ally, right? Let's say your Bloodblade Karen's dead, she comes back to life and she does resume with the combat readiness she had before. So she's gonna do her skill 3. Let's say she didn't have the time to do it. Of course, she won't have the attack buff, but the lower her HP is, Bloodblade Karen, the more damage, the faster her speed, and the higher her defense is. So yeah, it could be extremely dangerous. Now Crow, he comes back like 20% HP. If he didn't have time to use his skill 3, well, he's gonna do it now. Well, that's assuming he survives until he actually goes, but he's gonna resume with the combat readiness he previously had. And like if he had any debuff, whoever that died, they had some debuffs, they come back, and those debuffs, of course, they are gone, they're not there anymore. And so yeah, that's pretty cool. And now I'll talk about her stats. You know, her HP is a bit on the lower side though. Like that's something that bothers me. Her defense is high, like Soul Weavers in general. Her speed is fairly high compared to other Soul Weavers. Her attack, who cares about that? I mean, you're not going to be using her for damage because she scales off of attack and not from HP on her skill 1. And she has 18% effectiveness, so if you want to use her to target like a squishy, a high threat on the enemy team, a damage dealer or something of the sort, you use skill 1, you could land a stun because they're not going to be, I mean, they won't have a bunch of effect resistance. So yeah, effectiveness will come in 18%, plus you might have some on your gear, but I mean, you might not be, you might not afford to actually aim for effectiveness for her. So yeah, now for skill up priority, of course you max S3 first. And then you'd like, well, it depends. Like if you feel like those stuns are helpful, you could skill that up. But skill 3 first, and then skill 2 you could bring it all the way, max it out, or like do like something like +4, +5, and then since the cost kind of like high, you'd get this like to +2, and then like maybe you up this a bit more, and then you bring this to +4, you max this, you bring this to +6, something of the sort, right? Now for the gear, for the builds for her, artifacts, you've got Water's Origin. Man, for Soul Weaver, for pure survival on your Soul Weaver, Water's Origin is so solid. I mean, especially if they're doing smaller hits that are close to 20% of her HP or a bit higher, then you really gain with that thing because you're getting 8% of your HP back, unless there's like a HowTo that cuts your healing with his passive by like 50%. But yeah, I mean, she will also get combat readiness, which is huge, same amount as Idol's Cheer. That is if she's the one being targeted, which is in most cases she will be targeted because they want to take her out before she does her S3. I mean, that's the thing, like she's a big threat for the enemy, because if she's paired with big threats, then they also have to decide go for her or go for the enemy, especially in arena. I mean 4v4, then it's definitely rough to decide sometimes, because the rest of the team might be extremely dangerous. So yeah, Water's Origin super solid for her, mostly for PvP of course, unless in PvE you want her in the front lines, it could definitely be useful, but Celestine is where it's at in PvE though. I mean, just a bunch of healing toward your ally with the lowest HP on top of the passive that keeps on kicking in. And the other thing that's cool is her passive, like even if she's disabled, she's stunned, she's silenced, whatever, right? She can still trigger it. It happens at the start of her turn, and of course if she does have unhealable debuff on herself, then I mean it won't work for herself, but the lowest HP ally will get the healing. So there's that. And yeah, Celestine for PvE, a very solid contender. She could definitely be, like, she could be your main healer. She could be your main healer in PvE with Celestine. I mean, she would need she would be built with mostly HP and high speed though, with speed boost for PvE. PvP is a different story though. That's the thing. Like if you want to use her for PvP and PvE, then you're gonna have to settle for a build that you feel like comfortable with. And in PvE, in most cases, she's gonna be a secondary healer. She's gonna be a backup healer. And in most content, I mean, there's better options though, because you don't really want your allies to die and to use that revive, but still the attack buff is cool, and the revive buff is something like, it's like a oh shit mechanic, right? Okay, so moving on to another artifact. There's Proof of Valor. If you feel like you're gonna be taking some massive damage and you want her to survive at all cost, Proof of Valor could be the one before she gets her skill 3 to go off, right? So that's definitely a solid contender. And I talked about Celestine. Now I want to talk about Idol's Cheer. Idol's Cheer is very powerful, and if you have an ally on your team that has high speed, let's say it's even higher than her, and let's say you're using her and like Dizzy's on your team, right? And now the enemy, like, they started to cleave you, they did one of their attack, and then like Idol's Cheer triggers and pushes your Dizzy ahead of the enemy team, and then Dizzy start to mess their stuff up, right? So that's one way to go about it, right? So you can help your teammates, and also if she's the last one standing, she will be getting the combat readiness like for any hit. Like it could be a support hitting her, she will get the combat readiness, versus like Water's Origin, you need to be hit for 20% of your HP or more, so it will not trigger all the time, especially if she's very tanky with high effect resistance, no defense down on her, etc. So yeah, Idol's Cheer is definitely a good contender, but to be honest, like since you will be a prime target in PvP, you should aim for Water's Origin foremost, if you can make her tanky enough. If not, if you feel like you're gonna be hit hard, Proof of Valor could be the answer for you for PvP. Okay, let's there's another one here. I mean, one just Potion Val, you can have some cleansing every time she goes in PvP. 100% chance is super strong, especially in Guild Wars 3v3 format. This is very very powerful, and if you feel you don't have enough effect resistance on her, one just Potion Val could be that artifact that allows you to clear those unlucky defense down that gets applied on you. Now there is also wait, no, that's it. That's all I wanted to cover. So for the artifacts, let's move on back onto her, and I'll talk about what kind of sets you should be wearing on her. So to me, the better setup for PvP would be her running on triple resist sets. The reason why is because you get 20% effect resistance, versus if you run HP set, defense set, you only get 15% of the stats, so you get more value out of resist sets. But of course that would be more like of an end game setup, right? Because it's going to be hard. Like you might not be farming Banshee for it, and you also need 6 of them, so that's going to be really hard, especially if there's 4 sets that drops there. But in most cases, other setups that can definitely be good for her, you can mix and match to like resist, HP, defense, things like that. So another setup would be like speed plus resist. And that, like, if you go for a speed set, that'd be more useful for PvE and PvP too. But if you go speed, you're gonna kind of have to go all the way and even wear speed boots. In that case, that's the thing though. She's gonna be losing survival, but she could be going first before the rest of your team to apply this sweet attack buff and the revive buff. Now, if you do that, you might be countered with a hero that removes buffs, like a stripper. So you gotta be mindful of that. Now, for other setups, like if initially you could go with speed and immunity set if you don't feel comfortable with how much effect resistance you might be able to stack, or if you feel like effect resistance that needs to be stacked costs too much in terms of like her HP and defense gonna be too low. So if you go immunity and it's all about that turn 1 for her, which in most case is kind of the deal, like she just like need to land that skill 3, right? So immunity set has a lot of value early on, but be careful, because of course you can be dispelled and then be controlled, so there is that. And yeah, so you could go speed and immunity, let's say, and then for the stats on the right side you could go HP percentage for the necklace, HP percentage for the ring, and speed for the boots. Or you could go 1 HP percentage, the other one defense percentage, if you want to balance your stats and have a better effective health. So the problem though is that after immunity is off, I mean, you're gonna be controlled, and if defense down gets applied on you, you don't have that effect resistance to count, like to have a lower chance to have that applied, and then she's gonna take some massive damage. But if she got her skill 3 off, then it's like, yes, that turn 1 with her is massive. So there's that. So other setups, I mean, you could just mix and match, like mix and match, like I said. You could be using HP set, defense set with like immunity set, or you can even use broken sets as long as you're hitting those marks on the stats that you want for her, you're comfortable with. So other stats on the right side, like for, let's say, more for PVE. Yeah, for PvE you want speed boots for sure. In most cases it's speed boots, so you might have to change your boots for PvE and PvP or something of the sort. Anyways, moving on to the main stats, I mean the stat priority, sorry, that you should go for. The first stat that you should go for is health percentage, okay? Because she scales off of HP. For this, it's not much, right? Because, I mean, this is the #1 skill for her, of course. This is just like icing on the cake. So HP percentage first, and then you would go with speed, and then effect resistance, and then defense percentage, and then effectiveness lastly. Now, if speed is going right after HP, that means you're probably going for like her. She's going first on your team, and then the rest of your team is going, because you want to have your damage dealers have the attack buff and the revive effect. But like I said, if you get like stripped, if you get your buff taken off, then you are definitely in danger. And she just got totally countered, which is not that hard. That's the issue really with her. Other setup is you go HP first, and then you go effect resistance, and then defense percentage, and then speed, and then effectiveness. So in that setup, right, you will aim for high effect resistance and survival for herself at no matter the cost, right? And then like you will balance your HP and defense. You'll be able to aim for more defense because you will have effect resistance, meaning they're not gonna apply defense down on you, meaning that you're gonna have higher effective HP because you're mitigating a lot of damage using your defense, right? But you can be countered with a hero that penetrates defense, like a Watcher Shuri with Oxlots will kill you. But that's the thing though, you have to remember that a Watcher Shuri with Oxlot, or like Watcher Shuri getting the attack buff going before you, will kill you no matter what. If they invested the skill ups onto Watcher Shuri, even if you went pure HP on her, she'll die. Watcher Shuri can hit for 30,000 plus, right? Penetrates defense, so you will die no matter what. So that's why balancing HP and defense is not a bad choice, because like a Dark Corvus will kill you no matter what, even if you do go full HP or balance your HP and defense with high effect resistance. So remember that. I mean, a specimen says if he needs to land that stun on you, but he can't because you have such high effect resistance, then he can't do anything. He can't do his damage penetrating. Yes, his damage that will penetrate defense. So best setups for her, right? Oh, actually, there's another setup for main for stat priority is like speed first, and then HP, and then effect resistance, and then defense, and then effectiveness. Like that build would be like if you want at all costs go first, and it's all about landing that skill 3, and then you're like, whatever, if I survive, okay, if I die, whatever, I did my job. And if you die, you're gonna get revived, right? So there's that. And they might have used all their burst, and then your whole team comes back, and then you destroy them or something of the sort. So there's that. And something I want to point out is that that's a cool hero in Guild Wars, because let's say you have her and she brings security to your team. Like if you don't want to lose some of your best geared heroes, right? And you want to be more risky, right? In the comp you bring, maybe she's gonna be your only source of sustain. You can go more aggressive, and this allows you to like save your hero, have your hero saved for the next battles, right? Because you were able to revive them, something like that. So that's a very strong hero. So the thing is, I was thinking that Bazaar is a massive counter to her. Massive counter. No matter how much effect resistance you use, he will soul burn his S3, right? Let me just show you here. Because he got changed. He got changed, and now he is so dangerous. He's God tier now. You soul burn this thing, right? You have Taghiel's Ancient Book. He has the 20 souls. And then what happens is he dispels whatever effect. So if he went first, even if you didn't apply skill 3 yet, well, he's just gonna be applying Enable to be buff, debuff on you, and your skill 3 will not work unless someone died on the team. But if he goes first, I mean, yeah, if someone dies on the team, she can still revive. But let's say he applies Enable to be buff, debuff, or anyone really on the enemy team that does that, it's over unless you clear it before you use skill 3. So in a 3v3 situation, you don't have too many options like there. So yeah, he soul burns that. If you did apply skill 3 before, he's gonna take it off, apply Enable to be buff, debuff, and yeah, you're gonna push your combat readiness as well. So very, very dangerous, and then he's gonna mess up your stuff with this. So a hard counter, like 2 effects into 1 with him. But like you could have enemy team using like a strip like HowTo, and then they could have Seaside Bellona applying the Enable to be buff, debuff, or any hero that can do that, and then you will be at a heavy disadvantage if they went first. So remember, like everything can be countered in a game. So that's a just very specific case though. So for best setups, I would say like early on, you go like speed plus immunity. That's a low investment setup. You don't even need to worry about effect resistance. And then you would wear like something like Idol's Cheer, right? And in most cases, you'll just cut in. You'll cut in because, I mean, you won't cut in, but I mean, you will go first before the enemy, or you might cut in if they didn't have a combat readiness booster or an Oxlots, and you'll use skill 3 before they unload everything maybe with that setup. And the Idol's Cheer, you'll help your teammate to get some combat readiness, so maybe they can cut in and disrupt them, something of the sort. But then like if you move on a mid to late game in PvP, you'd aim for something like a triple resist set. And then I would prioritize like effect resistance until you hit that number that you're comfortable with, depending on where you are in terms of league and PvP. So like effect resistance, if you're going with triple resist set, you can easily aim for 150% effect resistance. That would be like the lower amount, especially if you're going with triple resist set. Then you would go with something more like toward 200 plus, the higher your league is in PvP. And then so you won't have defense down being applied to you, and that will up your survival a lot, because you're gonna get some you're gonna mitigate a lot of damage using your defense. So effect resistance first, and then you hit your mark, and then you go HP percentage, and then defense percentage, and then finally speed. And in a setup like that, she's gonna go like last, right? But she's gonna be there for applying to revive or apply the buff. That's one way. That's one way to build her that I was thinking about, right? And yeah. So if you go speed immunity setup, you should aim for speed first because you're gonna go for turn 1. And if you get outsped, that's where the immunity set kicks in, right? And yeah, so you go speed first, and then you go HP percentage, and then defense percentage, and then effectiveness. So with the triple resist set, you could be using Water's Origin, right? Or you could be using Proof of Valor if you want to have as much survival as possible for her, and see she stays alive to do to use that skill 3. You can do it like that. So yeah, but also there's another issue, is that if you wait too long, if she doesn't have the speed, well, the enemy might have applied Enable to be buff, debuff on your team already. So that's where things get hairy. Like, it's not so hard for them to just bring someone to outspeed you if you didn't go with speed boots and you're not focusing on speed. With her, they can easily bring that, and then unless your team died, unless your hero died, well, yeah, that's the problem. If they die, you're gonna revive them. They're gonna be very low HP, and then they can be easily dealt with. But maybe they will wipe the enemy team out because they resume with their combat readiness, and then like that's the problem. Or if you go full speed, well, at least you know this thing landed. But of course, you can still be countered because you might not have a combat readiness booster, and the enemy team might cut in right after her, and then maybe wipe out your team, and then it get revived if you didn't have. Yeah, it will get revived unless it got their buffed stripped. So that's the thing, though. Like, there's so many scenarios where it could go wrong depending on how you build her. I don't feel like super positive about this hero, but she is definitely very interesting, and there's so many different team compositions that she can be running with her, and that's where the fun comes in, right? That's where the fun comes in, and there's gonna be some moments you bring her on offense, and then you see it happen, and then like it goes really bad, and then she comes back with her skill 3, or the skill 3 triggers, and then it was a game-changing move, and that will make you really happy. So there's that too. Like there's some moments where it's gonna be really cool. Now, where she shines, of course, PvP, Guild War, and Arena offense, and mostly defense, but still offense, because you can definitely, like, well, yeah, you can, you control, it's not the AI, you control your heroes. But PvP definitely very strong. Now, in PvE, like, you want to pair her with big threats, like I said, right? Like BB, like Bloodblade Karen, Crow, Arbiter Vildred, Martial Artist Can, Seaside Bellona, Bruisers. It really depends. It really depends. But she's strong. She's strong. But a lot of ways to counter her, unfortunately. In PvE, you can be using her. I believe in Raid and Labyrinth, she brings a pretty high camping morale. I have not tested her, but from what I remember. Before I did test her, I believe, and she was giving some pretty solid amount of morale. So yeah, she can definitely be there as a backup healer, or if you want to go full on offense, she could be that hero with the attack buff, the revive in like if things don't go too well, and of course this kind of heals quite a bit, especially with Celestine, and if she has high speed. So PvE can be used. For sure, she could be your second buffer to have a higher uptime on attack buff. But the thing is, there's better heroes out there for PvE. Now, like in a real-time arena, when that gets released, she could be a hero that you bring, and then you could make some pretty dangerous comp with her. You could bring be pretty offensive, but then they might ban Maid Chloe if they feel like they won't be able to deal with her ASAP. So yeah, and there's also future content, maybe Automated Tower Hard. You bring her because like you got that revive, the attack buff, the healing, the stun. You can, if you manually play the hero, you might be able to land some stuns on some of the deadlier enemies. Of course, it won't work on bosses. They can't be stunned unless there's something that gets released in the future where they can be stunned. But yeah, these are my thoughts about it. It's just like Bazaar, like really hard counters her. which is definitely unfortunate, because like no matter the effect resistance, you know, like he's gonna be able to land that and able to be buff, debuff, and strip. So yeah, these are my thoughts about her. She's definitely gonna be a fun hero, and in a lot of comps be very dangerous, and the enemy would like to like burst her ASAP. So yeah, and also if you have her with like 15,000 HP, if you have her with like even 20,000 HP in PVE, right? And she is using that passive every time she goes. I mean, 12%, right? 12% of her max HP is going to be 2,400 HP for herself and for the lowest HP ally. Plus, imagine that, like even if she's disabled, and plus Celestine healing you for between 12%, I mean, the lowest HP ally could be herself, but between 12 to 16% HP. That's a lot of healing. That's a lot of healing. So especially if she's very fast, they're gonna keep on coming quick, and especially if she triggers a dual attack, it will trigger as well. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching. I'm Astranox. Like, comment, subscribe for more. Press the bell icon for like to be notified whenever I release a new video, and check out my other videos. They should be showing up on the screen now. Playlists of all sorts: Arena, Guild Wars, Guys, Tips and How-Tos, and Abyss Floor 62+. So check those out if you haven't. And also, I have not shown her skills in action, so let's finish with that. So skill 1, I mean, it's like normal Chloe, right? And yeah, the healing happens right when she goes. Beginning of the caster's turn, and here comes S3, the MVP skill, VIP treatment, super powerful. All right, so that's really it for this one. Peace out for now, and good luck with all you do in the game.